I want to talk to you about the C-drama Fireworks of My Heart and how this is probably one of the most chaotic modern romances that I have watched. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and basically anything else I want to talk about. Today's episode, I want to talk about Fireworks of My Heart, and starring, I guess, my favorite C-drama actor, my boo-boo, Yang Yang. It just... I just love looking at his face, okay? Yeah, let me be shallow for a minute, okay? I love looking at the man's face. Anyways, Fireworks of My Heart, what I thought was basically was going to be a romance drama turned out to be an ensemble drama about first responders, and it's definitely a show that is making conversation about trauma and trauma responses, both in line of duty, whether you are working in the military or whether you're working as a firefighter or you're working in the emerge as a doctor. So it's about trauma responses on the job and trauma responses in your own life. And the show actually does seem to tackle quite a bit as far as abuse. Definitely more on the psychological end, not so much on physical abuse, but definitely psychological abuse, definitely verbal abuse as well. And this was surprising to me. I should have read the synopsis, but I was just under the understanding from the pictures I had seen and it being recommended among other C dramas that were more heavily based on the romance subplots that I just assumed. But you know what they say about people who make assumptions, right? For this show, the two main leads, one being the firefighter, the male lead, and the female lead being the ER doctor. And I just thought it was chronicling the romance and the falling out of the romance and basically them coming back together. So it definitely has a major subplot of second chance romance. They were lovers when they were in school, and basically it's a show that also does a lot of discussion around class as well and class inequity. And for the main reason why these two couldn't be together when they were younger is because her family is very wealthy and her domineering mother in particular took issue to the male lead. Didn't think he was good enough, mainly because of his family background. She deems them to be of low class and not obviously enough financial stability, and basically the image that her and her family project out to high society. So was what I thought to be just chronicling that alone, but the show actually goes a lot deeper into a lot of other overarching themes like the ones I've mentioned. And I guess I should have clued in that it would have a little bit more grit to it because there's 40 episodes of this. So I was really curious because I was thinking, how are they going to sustain a romance for 40 episodes and keep everyone engaged? Well, romance is very much secondary to the overall story. I'm actually really surprised on how much I have been enjoying the actual side characters. A lot of them are really fully fleshed out, and you get a really good look at firefighters and just how dangerous of an occupation it is, and that they don't just deal with fires. They deal with all sorts of nonsense that I don't think they should be the first on the scene to be responding to. My personal opinion, but apparently they do a lot more than that. And it actually shows you a lot of in-depth scenes of them training to be, and the lead male in particular, he's a hard ass. It's really interesting with this actor because I just finished You Are My Glory, and I will have had already episodes up prior to me filming and recording this, and he's very different. He seems to lend himself more to more stoic characters. This one is not a stoic character at all. He's very brash, he's very in your face, he is very smart alecky, and he always has a comeback, and oftentimes is extremely rude and extremely arrogant. and very off-putting, but we're supposed to root for him anyway. The female lead is really bright and she's very stoic, and I find her character interesting because the character arc that they seem to be wanting with this character is that it's almost like the storyline wants to humble her a little bit. She is very proficient at her job as a surgeon. She's very highly educated, but because of her family background, there's the assumption that she has been benefiting from nepotism because of the family connections and money, and that she's basically been fast-tracked to stardom because of her connections, and there's not really a lot of value placed on her actual intellect and what she's able to do as a doctor and a surgeon. And her mother in particular seems to take issue with the fact that she works in the ER. I think her mother would have preferred her to do something that would lean into a more softer life, maybe more on the administrative angle where she wouldn't have the responsibility, because ER doctors, you basically don't get sleep. You're essentially always on call, and it's very highly demanding. And I think the mom essentially wants her to get married, have babies, lay it up, you know, and keep the family image looking pristine and intact. And obviously she wants to buck against this. She has a lot of pride in what she does, and I think she has a lot of personal joy from actually helping people and not just resting on the fact that she is incredibly wealthy, which I think is a really interesting angle. But she does come off, or at least the show is trying to portray her as someone that's very aloof, that has a very low social EQ, that maybe could be someone that has undiagnosed autism, because she does in some scenes come across autistic to me. I don't know if that's the actual intent of the writers, but that's what I'm getting from watching the show. I've watched about 26 episodes, but the show is like almost trying to have the storyline of her being humbled. Well, you need to actually have more compassion. You can't just be a technician and just do your job and not have, you know, a little bit more empathy towards your patients. You come off really cold, and sometimes you have to take a step back and not just look at everything like theory from a textbook. But I never really got that sense, even though that's what the writing is trying to show. From what I have gathered, I think the character is actually really good at taking her emotions out when need be, when dealing with like life-altering circumstances for her patients. I find in a lot of scenes she is really quick to make astute assessments on what patients need to be prioritized and be able to triage really well. So I actually find the way the character conducts herself to actually be an asset as much as it can be in the professional setting. As far as her personal life, the character's a mess. She's a complete utter mess, and I don't blame her, because the show has done an amazing job of showing just how incredibly toxic and messed up her family is, which is something that I did not anticipate. For one, she is adopted in the show, and her story is really tragic. So she was adopted. We don't really have a lot of backstory on what happened to her biological parents, but it's assumed that a major accident happened and she was the only survivor of said accident. And then this wealthy family takes her in because they wanted a daughter. They also have a son, and her and the son grew up together in this very toxic household. And the storyline has it that the damn son is falling in love with her, even though they were raised from very young as brother and sister. And I feel like the show is showing that it's creepy, and it's not something that should be something we root for. But it's still weird that the show is going there. And I'm kind of perplexed, because I feel like that's something that should be really explicitly stated in any synopsis. I will admit that I did not read anything prior to watching this. I only assumed that it was just strictly romance based on the shows that were recommended along with it, which are shows that I have watched or have been watching that are all about the romance element. So I just assumed this would fall in the same category. But I didn't come in knowing that there's going to be all this about toxicity and family dynamics, and that a stepbrother will fall in love with his stepsister. And what? like, believe you me, the female character, the female lead, she does not encourage it at all. If anything, she is really happy that he is a brother and only sees him as a brother figure. And she is quick to say, you're being weird, stop it. But this goes on for like several episodes. I mean, several episodes. So this isn't like something that's really subtle, that just kind of interwoven in like a couple of plot points here and there. Like, this is like a major theme. And I guess it's just going to be untangling more and more trauma that these two kids have received. And then there's the male lead as well, and just dealing with the post-traumatic stress of being in, a fire station as well. And there's also been a lot of flashbacks to his military background and the things he had to do in the army as well, which also play into his trauma as well. And the fact that these two just don't have good communication skills, a lot of miscommunication between the two of them. So if you're not someone that likes miscommunication tropes, this is probably not the show for you, because it's a plenty. It's a plenty with this show. But overall, I am just fascinated. I'm fascinated by this show. And I'm also watching it on Viki, so I have the comments on, and if you're at all familiar with the Viki app and the interface of it, like, you can see the comments flash as you're watching it, and the commentary from the commenters, actual viewers, is actually very entertaining to me. So it actually makes the show that much more fun to watch. But the show is a lot, so you should definitely look into content warnings. The show definitely brings up a lot of interesting conversations and a lot of, interconnecting plot points. It's very, very much more than what it appears to be on the surface, but you're going to have to be extraordinarily patient with the main lead romances. So if you're going into this thinking that things are going to be clear cut, it's not. It's going to be very frustrating to watch, and it's going to be very much push pull for about a good 20 episodes. But because of the events that I'm not going to spoil that lead into episode 26, there is actually a lot of great resolutions, and other than a couple of questionable quotes here and there in the show, the dialogue is actually really good, and I find the side characters and their stories and interpersonal dramas actually to be the more fascinating piece than the actual romance itself. So it's just a very multi-layered show that goes into more than what you think it would, and I would only recommend it for the sense if you just want to watch a good drama, period, about first responders. If you're going into this just for the romantic subplot, I don't know if I can tell you in all honesty that it's worth sticking it out for 26 episodes just for the romantic subplot, because believe you me, more times than not, the two leads are fighting. It's very toxic. They're not communicating well. And there's just so much other stuff that's going on that it could lead to being very frustrating. And I could see a lot of people that are strictly about the romance and the development of the romance just tuning out early, thinking it's boring, or just thinking it's way too toxic and weird to get through. But it's a very interesting drama, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. For me right now, the Viki app is down, so when I can resume, I will resume. Because as I said, the commentary piece from the other viewers that are watching the show is actually really funny. So there's that piece. So that concludes my episode for today. I'm going to continue to watch Fireworks of My Heart, and if there's anything of note, I will definitely be back to do an additional episode to keep you tuned in. So I appreciate you. If you are watching this via YouTube, please subscribe, comment if you're watching this or any other C-dramas that maybe I should be checking out. If you're listening via Spotify or other podcasting and streaming services, I appreciate you as well, and please share. Till the next episode, peace.